Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hello. Welcome to Rooted and Rising. You are here with Dr. Cheri and my co-host, Ellice Boone. We're excited about today. I guess we're excited about all our topics, aren't we, Ellice? But today we're going to, I've one question for you before we get started is, what if our body already knows how to heal? And the question is, do we listen? Are you listening to your body? We live in a world that we just run to interventions, a little bit of pain and we run, and a little off tilt and we run, trying to find answers. And we're bombarded with media sharing all kind of new biohacks and supplements and wonderful things. But what are we doing first with regards to listening to what our body is sharing with us? Are we befriending our body and recognizing its intelligence? Its own little universe itself and its intelligence. And so today we're going to talk about a little bit, how do we do that? How do we reconnect with our body? Can we redefine that maybe the body isn't broken? Maybe it really is just communicating to us that we need to make a shift in how we prioritize how we live in this world, right? Our nervous system, which we've talked so much about, and our immune system are always responding to what? Our environment. And so if we think about, what kind of environment we are creating, and we hear a lot about this, then maybe we can have some answers to what our body is really communicating with us.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. This is a subject that I'm excited about personally because we're going to dive into more of what our natural rhythms are and how we are not separate from nature, that we are a part of nature. And our bodies are just these machines, that they're an ecosystem, just like is mirrored in so many aspects of nature. And so when we allow ourselves to realize that we're part of nature and we are one with it, and we invite that into our daily interaction, our daily life, it just allows our bodies and healing intelligence to be activated. And there's so many ways that science is proving this now. Let me move my microphone in a little bit closer. There we go. There's so many ways that science is proving this now. This inner intelligence is, activated as we connect with nature. So anyway, I would love to go into maybe a little meditation about this and just testing that the mic is okay here. Can you hear me okay, Cheri?
Yes, you're a little crackly, but I can hear you.
Okay, maybe at the break I'll rejoin. So now I'd like to invite our listeners to go into a quiet space. And if you have the ability to lay down on the ground and feel really rooted, if you can be outside in nature and listen to this on your phone, even better. But we're going to just take a few moments to yourself, uninterrupted, to just tune into what your body is saying, and tune into that ecosystem that is constantly moving within you. So get into a comfortable position, either sitting or laying. And if it feels safe for you, go ahead and close your eyes. Now I want you to, in this position, really focus on softening the body, starting with the jaw, softening the jaw. And maybe on your exhale, noticing the breathing, softening down the body, the shoulders, softening in the stomach, the hips, moving down the legs, softening the thighs, the calves, and finally at the feet. And just allowing yourself with your next inhale and exhale to sort of melt into the place that you are. Finding your breath here and noticing on the exhale a deeper softening. Noticing that your body is one with the surface that you are on as you melt deeper and soften more. Imagining that you are not separate from this earth, that whatever surface you're on now is in some way layers beneath connected to the earth and down into the core of the earth. Allowing that visualization to ground you into the place that you are now. Knowing that you are connected to a source of energy. Taking a deep breath in through the nose here. And exhale through the mouth. Doing that deep inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth a couple more times. Really allowing the body to soften and melt into the ground or the seat or the chair as you continue to exhale. Now, as you're here, noticing that even though your body may be still, your breath is in constant motion, allowing that breath to fall into a natural rhythm. And notice that beneath the surface of our skin, always something is happening. This ecosystem is constantly at work. Our blood is flowing through our veins. Our heart is pumping that blood. Our lungs are inhaling and exhaling, causing our chest to move in and out. Our body is so alive in every moment. Even without thought, without control, we are constantly in motion. And now this beautiful system that exists here without our control or even our thought, it's here to also heal and repair itself. And so I want you to imagine this breath that you have as you take your next inhale. Imagine that that inhale is bringing sort of a ball of light into your chest. And as you exhale, just imagine that light only growing bigger and brighter. And with each inhale, sort of collecting that energy from your breath within your chest, imagining it growing stronger, brighter, warmer. And what you can do with this ball of light, this energy that you are creating through each breath you take and each exhale, you can imagine a part of your body that might need either a little more softening or even just a little love in this moment. And with your next inhale and exhale, imagine sending that warm, glowing light to that part of your body. Continue breathing here, and with each breath, that light is building and growing. Imagine that it's sort of purifying this area. Whatever it needs. Does it need softening? Allow it to soften under the light. Is it dark? Is it stagnant? Imagine that darkness just dissolving in the purity of this light. Continue holding that focus, holding that energy in that place as you breathe in and breathe out. this beautiful healing breath of life. Allowing in this moment your breath to be the medicine that your body needs. And now, as we close out, inviting you to take a deep inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And when you feel ready, coming back into the room or space that you're in, slowly opening the eyes and noticing any shifts within the body, any subtle sensations, and just taking a moment to be still and notice here. So thank you for joining that. It is really a snippet of what it can feel like to focus our energy on our own internal healing. And yeah, I would love to hear how that was for you, Dr. Cheri, and hopefully the listeners gained at least a little bit of relaxation and connection to their breath.
Yes, that was as always beautiful. And what I recognized this time was that my the light kind of went to my nervous system, and usually I'm focused on my muscles relaxing or my body kind of like melting and collapsing. And this time, it felt different, and it went to my nervous system, and I tend to have more injuries on my left side of my body than my right side of the body, and so I could feel like this like just radiating across my left side of my body, and just will warming and also an energy of I'm going to say it was a healing energy, but an energy that just felt it just felt good. And I just love the analogy of breathing in that ball of energy, light into my heart, and then have it kind of just spread and grow through my body every time I exhaled. And usually you're releasing, but this felt like it was spreading. It was enhancing. It was like an expansion. Even though I was exhaling, I was expanding light, and I like that. So it was very nice, and I can see very much connected to my body. So thank you.
Mm.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think that's such an important piece is even on the exhale, you can feel that light and energy growing. And we often kind of think of the exhale as sort of this release, like it's going to diminish. But in reality, the entire cycle of how our breath works is giving us life and giving us energy. So we're creating this energy that we can continue expanding. Dr. Joe Dispenza has some really fascinating work around this, meditations and things that you can dive into that are really beautiful and very powerful. And he talks about self-healing in an immense way with actual diseases and things that people have healed themselves from. So worth looking into some of his studies and some of the work that he's done. But yeah, so here we are kind of starting out with connection to our body, connection to our breath.
I
The
love it.
simplest thing that we often talk about in our podcast, but I think today we're sort of honing in on the actual ability that our body has to heal itself, and then bringing in this piece with nature and how that truly goes hand in hand with the way our bodies were meant to live and move through this world. And when we disconnect from that, we start to see all of these problems. The more disconnected we create our environments to be, the more issues we tend to have. And like you said, the more interventions we seem to be chasing and searching for to solve all of these problems, these ailments, these pains. And what you and I believe, as we talked about this, had this conversation before, is that there's so much healing that can be done simply by changing our environment and making nature and connection to nature more a part of our daily life and routine. So after
And
the
I
break,
think
I'd
that's
love to.
really, yeah, I think
Oh,
that's really
sorry.
important. Well, I just think that's what's really important. What you're saying is, when we go, we can actually unknowingly and unintentionally almost treat our body like it's an enemy rather than it's our friend. And this little meditation exercise, this 5 o'clock again, this exercise where we can, exhale inside our body and embrace and expand inside, from the inside out. Again, we talk about inside out and spiritual things and on mental health things, but physically as well, we can befriend our body. And it is, again, the small, simple things that can be far more healing than maybe we wait until we just keep ignoring it, and it becomes a great big dis-ease in our body that we've forgotten all about the small little things and the joy, like even the joy this little exercise brought. That, we know that emotions heal the body. So joy and love and this little meditative exercise can help us tap into that and remember these emotions, and remember to befriend our body, and then tap into the intelligence of our body. So thank you, Elise. That was all really beautiful.
Also, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising with Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. We are talking about how to get tapped into our bodies again, and recognizing the intelligence of our bodies and how they can teach us how to heal them, and really getting back to nature and the simplicity of tapping into our relationship with nature, our body's relationship with nature. And so as I think about that, at least I like to put you on the spot for a moment. I know this last year, a few months ago, you went on a adventure of tapping into nature and healing the body through fasting and just being at home with nature. So I'd love to hear more about that and how you feel that maybe that relates to this.
Yeah, thanks for asking, because it's something I'm excited to share about because it was such a profound experience for me and is absolutely something I will carry in my heart for the rest of my life. But it was what my coach, the woman who was an incredible woman who I've worked with nervous system coaching and some different parts, she decided to go back into this work of hosting a group of women out on what they call the mountain. And it's basically like a 10-day experience, but we're on the mountain fasting on our own with nothing but nature, no phones, no connection to anything, including other humans, and just water for 3 nights. And it was definitely one of the harder things that I've done in my life. But the hardest part was the mental challenge more than the physical challenge, surprisingly. The mental challenge of not having the stimulation that we're used to having, the constant, information overload. And I think for me, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be more challenging physically, and for mentally me to just be like, yay, I'm having all this time to just be free. And they really don't want you to be so distracted by any elements. It's just sitting with your thoughts, being in your body, and existing in harmony with nature. The birds and the chipmunks became my friends. And if you know me, you know that they already are. And so people would just laugh before I went, like, oh, are you going to be talking to all your animal friends? And yes, I was. I was very grateful for them. But one of the most beautiful things that came out of this, there's so many parts to that journey on the mountain by myself, feeling so connected to the earth, feeling so much more connected to God and a higher power beyond myself. But after this experience ended and was held in this beautiful container with integration and all, afterwards, I noticed that there was a massive physical change for me. I actually was sleeping better at night. I wanted to be outside so much more. You couldn't stop me. I just went outside every single day, no matter what. I needed that. I like craved that connection to nature. I was on my phone less. I got my face in the sunshine every day. I was drinking more water in general, and I had such an appreciation of just the life that water gives us. And so instead of unconsciously drinking it, I just was so conscious and aware and grateful with each sip that I took. It just shifted that perspective so much and built this relationship with water that I didn't have in the same way. And I noticed that from that time, that was in September. And I used to get sick. I have a daughter who's in school. I used to get sick every time she went back to school. She'd get a little cold and I would get it 10 times worse. Um, I would pick up colds easily. I always have had, sinus issues, allergies. And it was just so easy for me, it felt, to get sick, to catch a cold. And since September, I have not had a cold. So I made it through our cold and flu season, which was apparently really tough this year. And I didn't get anything. And I was shocked because this was an actual physical marker for me of something that completely shifted. And it was a drastic change. For me to go through that season without getting a few colds and to have zero was pretty unbelievable. And I do attribute it to this reset I had in my body. My body was able to go through a fast where it really went into that state of cleansing itself and healing itself, which it does do after a period of time. Now it's scientifically proven after a period of time, it goes through this sort of like repair mode. And it doesn't have anything else weighing on the digestive system, and it just starts repairing everything inside that might need repair. So that's an automatic, incredible thing that we have that already exists within our bodies that was just activated by me fasting. And then the connection to the land, the connection to the sun, the moon, the stars, just feeling in such rhythm. It really, truly shifted my overall health and well-being and my mental health, which I believe firmly, correlates with our physical health. I came back feeling just in such gratitude and awe of the most tiny, simple things in nature, and just slowing down. I slowed down to a pace that it felt like that's the pace I'm supposed to be living my life. And it just becomes so busy and so fast with all that we have going on in the world. And it felt like my body just breathed a sigh of relief and had a moment to just rest and recover. So for me, that was an incredible example of what nature can do for us, the way that it can help our bodies remember the speed and pace in which we're supposed to be moving through the world, the way that it can show us tiny miracles and immense gratitude and joy from the smallest experiences. Yeah, and just the way that I felt so connected more to my circadian rhythm, to my sleep rhythm, to my natural wake and sleep cycles. It just overall shifted so much in my physical body that it was such an added bonus because I was doing it more for a spiritual and mental, goal. It wasn't so much for the physical goal or at all for the physical goal. And that was this sort of side effect that was incredible to experience. So yeah, that was my experience on the mountain.
That is beautiful. Wow, you shared so much. I feel like there's so much I could say about it, and I appreciate it. And what I hear that is so impactful, I would just change one thing, that, or contest one thing you said about these, small things. It sounds like you did ginormous things, in those 10 days, and that, the biggest is you, whether it's who you are, or obviously the environment and the opportunity lend itself, but you also chose to stay very present in this whole expedition that you did. And so that's why I say ginormous, because the presence, your mind, body, and soul we're so present in the moment, and to celebrate the drinking of water. I mean, we're 75% water, and so to be able to express that gift, and we know water carries memory, and the body, it has a natural, like you said, this natural rhythm towards balance and healing. And so you just gave that presence to do so. And then the other thing that I heard that was, I think, really relevant here is how this whole process, that could feel like, when you first say it, it's like, oh, who wants to go on a 10-day fast? Who wants to have no, and deal with the elements of bugs and insects, and you didn't go there at all. It was the rich soil, the whatever insects and bugs are beautiful, the birds, the chipmunks. I mean, they're all really gorgeous, but that just allowed joy and love for the moment. And then this opens a way to have a relationship with yourself, hence your body. And I do think we think we're having relationships with our body when we go, I'm going to eat these, have these vitamins, and go work out, and that is loving our body. But sometimes it's a task, and we're doing it to have health, but we're not really connecting with our body and doing it with love and joy. It's, I got to remember to take my vitamin. I got to remember I got to work out. It's my hour to do it. We don't remember to be joyful about and that, and in the moment. And the disconnect from all the devices allows that, which is also, I think, important to differentiate between, you took solace and enjoyed a relationship with yourself and being in nature, versus isolating. And I think the pandemic distorted so much. We're so isolated that sometimes we forget, we don't know how to discern isolation from being in a relationship with ourselves, and taking that solace time with ourselves, which is not isolation, it's having a relationship with ourselves. We forget to discern the two. And I like how you shared that so beautifully, that that's exactly what you're doing. You're having a relationship with yourself. And the added benefits is because you had a relationship with yourself, and space for your body to recalibrate and get back in balance to your natural healthy state. So that was
Mhm.
just beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for those reflections. It's true. It was big. It felt big. It felt big going into it. It felt big coming out of it. But I think what's surprising is that the act itself of being there was so natural. Being on the mountain and removing my phone and devices, and that piece of it came very naturally and beautifully. And I expected that to be harder. And it actually felt so freeing. So it just shows you, when we can get back to that space of, not having all of the stimulation. And we can't go live on a mountain for the rest of our lives necessarily. Maybe some people can. I can't. But carrying that with me. And I think when we come back from this next break, I want to share, how do we take that? How have I been integrating this? Because what can I do that's attainable in my everyday life to give me those benefits? I can't be living away from society without a phone for the rest of my life, and I'm not choosing that. But what
Right.
can I do on a daily basis? So
Which
I'd like to dive into that a
all of
bit.
us can, yeah, and what all of us can
Yeah,
do. So yeah, let's
absolutely.
dive into that. So we're going to take this break, and we're back in a moment, again, with Rooted and Rising.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom. purpose, passion, power, and peace, all quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. You're here with Ellice Boone and Dr. Cheri. I just got a chance to share a little bit about my experience without cell phones and in nature, immersed and going on a fast, which kind of brings me to a question, Dr. Cheri. How do you think, because this was such a massive difference from living out in the wild, basically, to like living in the environments we live in today? How much do you think our environments that we live in on a day-to-day basis are affecting our health overall?
Well, I think unfortunately, I think you probably agree, and most of our viewers would probably agree, is that we are a majority of us are living in environments that our body was not even designed for. I have to sometimes consciously think, when's the last time I stepped on dirt? I
Mhm.
don't, because I live in the suburbs, and so there's a lot of concrete. I realize that, and I noticed that for my husband and I, we are. My house is becoming, an aquarium. We have so many plants now. We used to have art, but now we have all these live plants. My kitchen is mostly hit for the plants, and so that's where the best light is for them. And so, but there's naturally gravitating to life, and so our environment doesn't really, you know, give us the nourishment, and we get and then we get in these closed environments where we're breathing in toxins, not fresh air, and then it goes to our food. If we go, if we're not careful, we just, we know processed foods are not good for us, but so much even our soil around our world is depleted, and we're not producing the same kind of nutrition that we used to. And we have the artificial lights. I'm always turning off fluorescent lights and getting away from our fluorescent lights, because we can feel it. It can create this, all these toxins can create chronic stress in the body, and we think we don't realize it, and it can then how our lifestyles are, even since the pandemic, like I talked before the break, is we're more prone to isolation. And I am finding, as a therapy practice, that trying to get groups started and trying to, and create community, I feel like is a tug of war. People are, now that they're isolated, it's like there's so many reasons, resistance to come out, because they're so disconnected from themselves. And the pandemic, it felt like the body could have been an enemy, because the body was attacked. And so then our ego can say the body's attacking us, rather than, oh, wake up, the environment attacked us. And so how do we love and nurture body? And so that isolation gets kind of stuck there, and we get disconnected. And so what happens? We do get ill, like your respiratory, we get inflammation, fatigue. We think it's just maybe aging, but it really is dis-ease. We get
Mhm.
emotions like anxiety and depression, and then our autoimmune disorders kick in. And so it's really a big thing. It's not a small thing. So I just
Mhm.
love the fact you started sharing that the side effect of coming back. And so you had said also before the break that there's other benefits and ways you're nurturing that, to not lose
Mhm.
sight of those 10 days. So I'd love to
Mhm.
hear how you live that in real life, because we got to live this in real life. I just said all these things that we struggle, and the one thing we have is plants in our house, but there's others. But I'd love to hear from you what you're doing that to expand on that fast.
Yeah, I think once again, just like we've spoken about with all types of healing modalities, experiences, medicine journeys, one of the most important parts is the integration afterwards. And it was the same with this experience. They even said in some of the calls afterwards, if you just don't integrate this experience, if you just go about your life after, it just basically becomes a dream that fades into the background until it's gone. And it was so sacred and precious that I knew I didn't want to just let go of it or just have this experience and forget about it and move on with my life. And so there's ways that I would bring it in. And one of the ways was standing outside in the mornings whenever I could catch the early morning sun. As early as possible, sunrise is ideal, but that did not happen for me often, to be honest. But that early morning sun, just getting my face into the sunshine and just taking some deep breaths was such a great way to start my day and sort of keep my body in that circadian rhythm, keep it in sync with nature, with the rising and the setting of the sun. So that was one way. And I felt more vital after that. One of my dear friends talks about sun codes, and it's so true. It's like we just absorb so much through the sun, not just vitamin D, but there's so many other things that we're gaining from being in the sun. And if we all live in houses, so if we can step outside for just a moment, take 2 minutes in the morning to do that, that in itself is something that I think is really powerful. And everyone has access to it, unless of course it's raining every day, which go out whenever you can find the sunshine. And then let's see, another point was the water, being very just present when I would drink water. Even expressing gratitude, like a prayer to the water before I would drink it. It would almost just shift how I drank water, how water maybe was received in my body, I'd like to believe, and how it nourished my cells and hydrated me in a different way than it did before when I was just unconsciously drinking it or kind of forcing myself to drink it. That's a piece too. I feel like often, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, when we do things because we're like, oh, we have to do this. Let's say we're going to the gym and we're taking our supplements, and it's just kind of like this part of life that we have to do to make up for what we're lacking in our connection with nature and the environment that we've created. I feel like even that attitude of not wanting to do it and sort of having this negative sort of, I have to do this, forcing feeling, that's how we're receiving that supplement into our body. That's how we're receiving the water that we're drinking and the food that we're eating. So this is why I think prayer and gratitude are both very powerful daily tools to use, because those not only shift our frame of mind, but also I believe it shifts the molecular structure of what we're taking in, and our body, the way our body opens to receive and nourish us. I feel and believe very strongly that that completely shifts when our frame of mind is positive and appreciative of what we're doing and taking in. So being on the fast just gave me that extra boost of appreciation. When you don't have food, you really appreciate what you do. When water is all you have, you really start to hold weight and value and really savor and cherish it. And so once I had done that, it made it a bit easier to appreciate the water, to appreciate the food, to have gratitude and prayerfulness in those moments before eating and drinking. So those are some of the things that came to mind.
I love it. The back to basics, right? If we really, if you, any teaching, any kind of like I don't care what you learn, you're usually introduced to basics first, and to appreciate as you grow to the complexities. And then our foundation is this basic, our water, our food, our feet on the ground, our face in the sun. I mean, that is also vitally important. And what goes along with that, that's when those positive emotions to surface, because I think we are naturally, we're balls of energy, but we're really, I believe we're balls of energy of love. And when we can do that little meditation exercise that you talked about, which I think is so beautiful. And remember, we're balls of the little ball of light and love, and we send that through our body. It's not just we have a positive outlook; it's an energy force. And it's a different energy force than a ball of anger and or depression or anxiety. Sometimes anxiety can feel energized and like dopamine pops, but it's not the energy of love and joy, which is much more calming and healing impact, not the other way around. And so, tapping into nature, which I think is really important to talk about, is, we can remember that the earth is a cosmic energy itself. It's its own energy, and it's here for our benefit. It's here to house us, and for us to learn all the things we want to learn. And having a body, that's really what it is. The earth gives our body somewhere to land. And so when we are fighting earth and we're not taking the opportunity to embrace it and let it hug us, and embrace us, our body is depleted. It's just like not drinking water. It can be depleted. And I just think, just if we can just, so much is about remembering what we already know. And that, saying our body is intelligent and talking to us, that our body's not broken, when it's inflamed or it's screaming at us with pain, it's not broken. It is trying to get our attention to address it. And if we go back to the basics, and sometimes we have to deal with complexities because we've waited too long, and thank goodness, I don't want to say we never go get medical attention, right? Yes, we get medical attention. Yes, we take vitamins. Yes, we do all this other stuff, but we put things in the right order, of importance. And back to basics can remind us and remember, for us to remember, our body is not broken. It is a healing agent. It's such an intelligence, and a joyful one at that.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's so wonderful having this topic and having this discussion, because in so many other podcasts we're speaking to these big experiences, and even today I'm talking about this fast and going out, but the things we're saying that integrate this are things that can be done on a daily basis that will make a change. I promise you, listeners, it will make a change. And so I really encourage people to just try the little things. One of the things you said was grounding. And I didn't mention that, but that is something I've been doing since I came back, because I was barefoot often there, and it just having my feet on the ground, they call it grounding now, but it made me feel so much more at peace and connected. And if you listen to anything from like Dr. Zach Bush, he talks about these microorganisms that are happening in the soil, and that our feet actually absorb these different ecosystems that are beneath us, and we take in so much from that. And now science is saying, oh wow, this can actually help with inflammation, grounding, putting our feet on the ground. So it's just fascinating. It's like we're coming back to this place where we're stripping down to the basics, the most basic thing. Hey, go put your feet on the dirt. And that is actually having shifts that are noticeable for people. And then science is now backing, oh, well, this is what it's doing within the body, and this is why.
Yeah.
A simple thing to think that we all have access to that,
Yes, that's beautiful. And and other things, like I'm thinking, I love going to, every time I travel, I love going, to these different countries or the different places and stand on the soil there. I recognize there's different, every, part of the earth has different, and I really try to reflect the moment and see if I can notice a difference. It's fun, for one thing. And then if you're stuck in the house, there are things I recognize it's the soil, but it's the rocks. And sometimes, I love, another thing in my house is I have lots of crystals, and sometimes I'll just hold a crystal, and this is like a big one, but it's sitting here, and I'll just hold it, and feel the intelligence of the energy of the crystal. It's a very dense energy, but if I can feel it, it brings me present. It causes me to breathe. It helps me reflect, and it's fun. And so we do fun things like that. And if you watch kids, they do fun things like this. And so, maybe we'll end on talk about some fun things once we get back from this break. But I see it's time for a break, so let's go for that. You're here with Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone with Rooted and Rising.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. So before our break, we were just talking about some different ways that we can sort of bring the natural world into our lives. We've created environments that are very separate from the natural rhythm of life and nature. And Dr. Cheri, you had said you had some fun ideas. I would love to hear what you had along the lines of like connecting with nature in a way that feels fun.
Yeah, I'm always for fun and for, um, you know, play and laughter. Again, our world today teaches is more about separation than togetherness. And like I'm over here and the world is out there. But our biology, our body tells us that there's a constant exchange with everything around us. The air we breathe becomes our blood. The food we eat becomes our cells. The relationship we experience shapes our nervous system. So if we can see that there's really no true separation and we're creating a relationship when we go out in the world, and add fun to it. I think of myself as a child. I love to be outside. I used to sit by the river and just watch the skippers. Like they're called skippers. And they're little bugs, I guess, and skip around on top of the water. I was like fascinated with their dance. I could see their dance and the miracle of their dance. I talk about like sitting out in nature with insects and bugs. I loved insects and bugs as a kid, but just watch them, the butterflies, and just take a moment and watch a cocoon for a minute, and remember the miracle that's happening inside that cocoon. I think that if there's wind, twirl in the wind versus trying to protect yourself from the wind. You used to run against the wind and feel the force against us, and then if rain, run outside and jump into some puddles, fresh water from the sky, and let the rain land on your face for a minute and forget about your hair getting messed up for a minute. Those kind, we used to make mud pies, I just, and think about that, but put your hands in the mud, really, how much do people spend at spas for mud baths? Go out and put your hands in your feet in the mud, and just me saying this causes you to laugh because I know these are we just don't let ourselves have downtime like this. And one of the things my kids love to do growing, I was fascinated. They all wanted to collect rocks. They love the rocks. And if you go to the beach, and they walk through and you can collect the rocks. I like to collect the rocks with the holes, or I have one. I wish I had it here, but I found a perfect heart-shaped rock one time and just made my day. And then also, collecting sea glass to see what nature does with, some things we do to pollute the water, but it becomes jewels, right? Because Mother Earth touched it and formed it into a beautiful piece that we like to collect. And so all these, collecting sticks and sitting. I love sitting under a tree. I find a new tree and I sit and I just hug a tree, and maybe a momentum, an acorn from it, bring it home. I used to collect things like that and bring them home because they would remind me of, I just feel warm and also youthful. And we tap in that youthful. We are a fountain of youth inside, and we can stay young far better when we do these kind of things. So those are some fun things I think at the top of my head.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I could literally picture you doing every one of those things. I know you did them as a kid, but I don't think you ever stopped doing them, which is why you are so joyful and youthful. I would attribute it to that for sure. That's amazing. Yeah. And so finding just a couple of minutes, because again, we're talking attainable. We're talking, you don't have to necessarily change everything about your life, but to take a few minutes to just say, what would like a little kid do right now? If I'm outside, what would a kid do? Would it go just explore that worm on the leaf? Would it, roll around? Would they roll around in the grass? Would they let the raindrops fall on their face? All of that. It's just it's like almost this invitation and sort of permission to just find that childlike curiosity and innocence and capture it and just bring a fraction of that into your life. And no doubt you will be laughing and smiling and finding joy.
And healing.
And
Connecting
healing.
and healing on top of it, which is, like you
Absolutely.
said, the bonus that you got from your, it was just beautiful. So there's so
Yeah. And nature is that way too. It's always there as an invitation for us to connect, to heal, to get into rhythm with. It's just open. It's open-ended. And so all we have to do is make a choice to step out and decide how we want to explore it, and be curious and embrace it. So wonderful.
sure.
Well, as always, we kind of like to share some journal prompts with our listeners, and just want to take a moment to say, as we haven't said this in a few podcasts, but it's really important to take some time to journal, even if it's hard for you, even if you do the smallest amount of time, maybe even setting a timer and free writing so that you allow sort of that subconscious to step forward, pen to paper. And there's many benefits to this. And one of them is sort of looking back and having that retrospection of progress and things that you have done and where you've come from, but also accessing parts of yourself you may not really have access to, sitting and talking to someone or just thinking and sort of ruminating over things. It allows us to get it out on paper. So we highly encourage journaling in some capacity. And here are a few prompts for this week. If they are helpful for you, go ahead and write them down and they'll be in the show notes. The first one is, where have I been outsourcing my healing instead of embodying it? The second is, what rhythms does my body crave that modern life interrupts? And the last, what is the simplest form of medicine that is available to me right now?
Love those.
So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so
Yes.
much for listening. And yes, if you enjoyed this podcast, please like us, follow us, and we have lots more to share. So go ahead, Cheri.
Yes, we have just take action on these things. We want you to take action, because, and just, even if it's just test us out. And I'd love to hear from you too. If you want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you and see how you're evolving for healing
Yeah.
and lasting healing,
So until next time, stay rooted
and keep rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern,